Somewhere in Northern Europe, there's a country where parents leave newborn babies outside alone in freezing temperatures and get praised for it. Where convicted murderers have ocean views from their prison cells and access to a recording studio. Where the government has so much money, it's legally prohibited from spending most of it. Buckle up, because the next few minutes are going to completely rewire how you see Norway. Fact 30. Norway offers up to 49 weeks of fully paid parental leave, or 59 weeks at 80% pay. And fathers get their own dedicated quota, 10 weeks reserved specifically for the dad. If he doesn't take them, they disappear. They don't transfer to the mother. The government made it non-negotiable, and it worked. Norwegian fathers are among the most hands-on in early childcare anywhere in the world. Fact 29. Halden Prison is often called the world's most humane prison. Inmates have individual cells with flat-screen TVs, private bathrooms, and windows without bars. There's a recording studio, a climbing wall, a jogging track, and a full kitchen where prisoners cook their own meals. Staff eat with inmates regularly. The reoffending rate within 2 years of release, around 20%, one of the lowest on Earth. Fact 28. Walk past a cafe in Oslo in winter, and you may see a row of prams parked outside on the sidewalk. Infants sleeping in them, in temperatures well below freezing. The parents are inside having coffee. Nobody calls anyone. Nobody stares. Other parents walk past, glance at the sleeping baby, and nod. In Norway, this is considered attentive parenting. Fact 27. Norway is not in the European Union. It has voted twice to stay out. In 1972 and again in 1994. It follows many EU rules and participates in the single market, but keeps its own currency and makes its own decisions. It also controls its own sovereign wealth fund, which happens to be the largest in the world, worth over $1.7 trillion, holding stakes in roughly 1.5% of all publicly listed companies globally. Fact 26. Friluftsliv. Friluftsliv means open-air life, and it has its own law. Allemannsretten, the right to roam, gives every person the legal right to hike, camp, and move through any uncultivated land in Norway, regardless of who owns it. You can pitch a tent anywhere in the wilderness for up to 2 nights without asking permission from anyone. This right has been protected since 1957. Fact 25. There is a concept in Norwegian culture called Janteloven, the law of Jante. The rules can be summarized in one line: don't think you're better than anyone else. It emerged from a 1933 novel, but describes something already real. Wealthy Norwegians drive modest cars. CEOs don't have flashy social media presences. Bragging, even subtly, is a social faux pas serious enough to damage relationships. Fact 24. Norway's sovereign wealth fund is so large relative to the size of the country that the government is legally capped at spending 3% of its value per year to avoid overheating the economy. Norway has more money than it's allowed to use. Fact 23. Norway doesn't give formal grades in school until age 13. Through all of primary school, children receive only descriptive feedback. Numbers and letters don't enter the picture until middle school. The philosophy: early grading teaches children to work for the grade, not for understanding. Fact 22. Norwegians have a word, utepils, that literally means outdoor beer. It refers specifically to the act of drinking a cold beer outside on the first genuinely warm day of spring, after months of darkness and cold. It's not a casual expression. It's a cultural institution. The first warm day of the year, Norwegians pour into the streets, sit outside with a beer, even when it's still technically too cold, and treat it with something close to reverence. Fact 21. Norway has one of the highest rates of electric vehicle adoption in the world. In 2023, over 80% of all new cars sold in Norway were fully electric. The government didn't mandate it. It made EVs cheaper and more convenient than combustion engines through incentives, toll exemptions, and bus lane access. Then let the market do the rest. Norway also happens to be one of Europe's largest oil exporters. Fact 20. There is essentially no tipping culture in Norway. Service workers are paid living wages by contract. Tipping is a gesture of particular appreciation. A rounding up, sometimes, not an obligation. Servers don't depend on it. The math is already done before they show up for their shift. Fact 19. 17. Mai, May 17th, Norway's Constitution Day, is celebrated with a fervor that fills entire city streets. The primary parade in every Norwegian city is a children's parade. School classes march. Brass bands play. Adults line the streets to cheer for the kids. The military does not march. No tanks, no fighter jets, no weapons on display. Just children, flags, ice cream, and traditional dress. Fact 18. Norway sits at latitude 71 degrees north, at its northernmost point, further north than any part of Alaska. Above the Arctic Circle, the midnight sun is real. In Tromsø, the sun stays above the horizon continuously, from May 20 to July 22. 63 days without darkness. Tromsø also experiences polar night from November 27th to January 15th. 50 days where the sun never rises at all. The sky gets a little lighter around midday. That's it. The relationship with light in Norway is not like anything in the mainland US. It shapes mood, culture, architecture, and the rhythm of the entire year. Fact 17. The Norwegian language doesn't have a single standard form. It has two. Both are official. Bokmål and Nynorsk are separate written standards, both taught in schools, both used in government documents. All Norwegian school children must learn to read and write both. Government agencies must respond to citizens in whichever form the citizen wrote to them in. Fact 16. Norwegians consistently rank among the world's happiest people, and yet strangers don't smile at each other on the street. Small talk with people you don't know is rare and slightly uncomfortable. Expressing emotions dramatically in public is considered performative. Once a Norwegian trusts you, the warmth is genuine and deep. The public surface, though, stays deliberately flat. Fact 15. Norway has no minimum wage law. Instead, wages are set through sectoral collective bargaining agreements between powerful national unions and employer organizations. These agreements cover the vast majority of workers and set wage floors significantly higher than statutory minimums in most comparable countries. The system works because union membership rates are high, and employer compliance is expected. The absence of a legal minimum isn't a gap. It reflects how thoroughly the labor market is already structured. Fact 14. The Norwegian coastline, when you account for all the islands, inlets, and fjords, stretches over 100,000 kilometers, longer than the circumference of the Earth, roughly 50,000 islands. The longest fjord, Sognefjord, runs 204 kilometers and drops 1,308 meters deep. The walls rise straight up from the water to heights of 1,700 meters. At the top, there are goat farms. Fact 13. Norway essentially invented modern salmon aquaculture. The first commercial salmon farms appeared in the late 1960s. The technology developed there became the global template. Today, Norwegian farmed salmon is on menus in the United States, Japan, and most of Europe. The industry generates billions annually and employs communities along the entire Norwegian coast. Fact 12. Norway abolished the death penalty for civilian crimes in 1905. Completely, including military crimes, in 1979. The philosophical reasoning is direct. If the goal of the justice system is rehabilitation, then execution is definitionally incompatible with that goal. Norway does not debate this. It was settled. Fact 11. NRK, Norway's public broadcaster, runs no commercials. It once broadcast a 7-hour live program of a train journey through the Bergen Line Mountains. No narration, no drama, just the view from the front of the train, in real time. Over 1 million people watched, roughly 20% of the entire Norwegian population. NRK followed this with a live ship journey along the coast that lasted 134 hours. Highest ratings the channel had ever recorded. This genre now has a name, slow TV. It started in Norway. Fact 10. Norwegian is a tonal language. The pitch of a syllable changes the meaning of the word. English speakers often describe it as sounding like someone is perpetually singing gently or asking a question. Two words can be spelled identically but mean completely different things depending on how the pitch rises or falls. The classic example, bønder, farmers, and bønner, beans or prayers, same letters, different tones, entirely different meanings. Fact 9: Norway has won more Winter Olympics medals than any other country in history. Not per capita. Total. More than Germany, Russia, the United States, Canada. A country of 5 million people. Cross-country skiing is so embedded in Norwegian culture that children ski to school in rural areas. The trails are maintained by municipalities the way other countries maintain sidewalks. There's a saying, Nordmenn er født med ski på beina. Norwegians are born with skis on their feet. Fact 8: Svalbard Global Seed Vault, carved into the permafrost of an Arctic mountain at 78 degrees north, stores over 1.3 million seed samples from 6,000 plant species. It was designed to survive nuclear war, pandemics, power grid failure. The permafrost keeps seeds frozen even without electricity. Seeds from countries currently at war with each other sit in the same vault. Norway took responsibility for housing all of it. No one asked them to. Fact 7: Koselig, roughly, coziness, is the cultural philosophy that makes Norwegian winters survivable. It describes a feeling, candlelight, a fire, wool socks, people you trust in a small warm space while it's dark outside. Norwegians burn more candles per capita than almost anyone else on Earth. Living rooms are lit by them. The interior environment is engineered to be a refuge. The winters demand it. Fact 6: Jan Mayen, a remote Norwegian island in the Arctic Ocean, is home to Beerenberg, the northernmost active subaerial volcano on Earth. It last erupted in 1985. The island has no permanent civilian population. It hosts a weather station staffed by rotating Norwegian military and meteorological personnel. It is technically Norway. It looks like nowhere near Norway. Fact 5: In 2003, Norway introduced gender quotas for corporate boards, requiring that publicly listed companies have at least 40% of each gender represented. Companies that failed to comply were subject to forced dissolution. The business community was outraged. The law passed anyway. Fact 4: Norway has maintained a diplomatic embassy in Pyongyang since 1973, one of the few Western democracies that has never severed relations with North Korea. Norwegian diplomats also facilitated the Oslo Accords in 1993, negotiated in secret in Norwegian government facilities. Fact 3: The standard full-time work week in Norway is 37.5 hours by law. Vacation is mandated at a minimum of 25 days per year, 5 weeks, by statute. Norway's productivity per hour worked is among the highest in the world. Fact 2: Norway found oil in 1969. Instead of spending it, the country saved it and built the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, with governance rules so strict that only the financial returns, not the principal, can be spent each year. The fund was designed for future generations, not for the Norwegians who found the oil. Fact 1: Norway has one of the highest standards of living on Earth, one of the lowest poverty rates, one of the strongest social safety nets, and a population of 5 million people, most of whom live in near total darkness for months every year, on a coastline that is technically closer to the North Pole than to Central Europe. The country should not work as well as it does. And yet, these are 30 facts. One country of 5 million people on the edge of the world. And I guarantee you, Norway is not what you pictured. If one of these facts genuinely stopped you, drop it in the comments. I read every single one.